Welcome to Critical Point Reviews, and this is our review for The Lone Ranger. And right off the bat, I want to go and talk about kind of a more structured, but we're still doing it unedited, but more of a structured basis of our reviews because we seem to go on this pattern anyway. We're going to have a section called First Thoughts. We're just kind of going to give like a little brief how we both felt about the movie. Not an in-depth review, but just kind of like a brief synopsis somewhat. And then we'll have what I call cheesy but story time, where we'll talk about this story, kind of give the plot, and then we'll have what we call getting to it, and that's when we'll break it down with the review and we'll give our scores, and that'll just wrap it up. So let's go ahead and go first thoughts. Do you want to give yours?
Sure. Yes. Heading into the movie, I thought it was going to be kind of like a childlike type of tale with comedy and stuff like that. I kind of felt like it was going to be similar to Pirates of the Caribbean in some sense, especially with Johnny Depp being a part of it. And watching it, it was actually a lot more. It was more serious than I thought it would be. They had more serious moments than I thought. You know, that the moments that they took particularly serious. But it was a lot of comedy here and there, and I think that to me, I thought it had its moments. I thought it was times where it was like particularly good for the movie, but I felt like there was something still missing. I still can't really explain it. Like it was different pieces and it was coming together, but something wasn't holding it together that it should have been. And so, but I thought it was a good movie, and I just thought there was just some things they probably could have done differently. I don't think there was anything that was disappointing in it. It was just except the fact that I don't know. Because with Johnny Depp, I think he's an actor that can do so many different things. Mm-hmm. But recently, I haven't noticed a lot of things that I've liked in the past the most. You know what I mean?
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not that it's been bad. It's just there's certain things that he doesn't do that he used to do. Like with Donnie Brasco.
Oh, yeah.
I got to admit, going back and watching it now, that's actually really good.
It's a great movie. And also, I was going to throw out a movie. He was also nominated for an Oscar. I think it came out in 2002. But it was about the guy who wrote the Peter Pan Finding Neverland. I don't know if you heard it, but it was.
I've heard of that.
He played the author, and he was phenomenal in that. And he's even great in his eccentric character.
Yeah. Because, I love Pirates of the Caribbean. I love Edward Scissorhands. I love Secret Window.
Ed Wood. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I heard of it.
Yeah, and he does a great job in that.
But I don't know. Part of me is concerned that he might be getting very comfortable with doing.
Well, I was also going to say he does have a movie coming out directed by the cinematographer. It was for all the Christopher Nolan movies in the past. He's going to become a director on his first movie. Comes out in April, I think. It's called Transcendence. It's a science fiction movie, and Johnny Depp's the main star. So something to look forward to.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so I don't know. I wasn't so much disappointed by anything. It's just there was just some things I probably want to see more of from him, from what he's done.
All right. I guess my first thoughts. Going into the movie, I was anticipating. I don't know. I had low expectations, but then I had somewhat medium expectations. Only reason Gore Verbinski, he's directed really great movies in the past. Mouse Hunt's one of my favorite comedies. He's directed the first three, but especially the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, it's a great just pirate action adventure movie. And Rango, which was a great Western, even though it was an animated movie. It was a great Western, and so I was. Like I said, I had low expectations from the trailers, but medium expectations from the movie, just going off the director's past career. And I'm not going to lie, it's not that it was like, I wasn't let down because I was anticipating a bad movie, but it was a bad movie. It wasn't a good movie for me. I didn't really like it. I couldn't really follow the plot, and I see the overarching plot, but there were so many things that were getting thrown out. And for me, tonally, it was weird. Like, I don't think they could necessarily fit that tone perfectly well. Like, for me, I'll get more on that in the review. But, yeah, for me, that's just, I didn't really enjoy it too much. Okay. So, I guess we'll go ahead and story time.
All right.
And
so basically, it kind of it's based off of the TV show, the same name. And you mentioned it was
a radio show back in the 30s
also,
and 40s, and then they had the TV show.
And it takes a slightly different take, I think, because I guess the TV show was a little bit more serious. It wasn't taken as a comedy, I guess.
I don't think there were comedy elements, really and it was more of a, kind of had that camp back from, but it was more of a.
It was just like a Western show.
It was like a hero,
right?
Like he was kind of like the.
He
like
stood for a lot.
The 50s glamorized hero.
Right, pretty much. But the movie kind of just brings in those two characters with Tonto and the Lone Ranger, and kind of shows how they get connected and basically become a team. And so it kind of takes different story elements as far as him and his brother and what's going on, during in that town or whatever the case, and why everyone ends up taking the routes that they took. So I thought it was pretty interesting for the most part. I can't say there was any particular twist to the story. If there was anything there, it was probably pretty obvious. It was probably going to go in that route.
It was a pretty linear plot.
It was pretty linear plot and everything. But going into the movie, I kind of felt like it was going to be a bit frantic. So I thought, based on my expectations of it being so frantic, that they kept things together enough for what happened. But
going to the review now?
Yeah. Okay. I guess so. Unless you have more plot.
It's just the kind of the origin story of the Lone Ranger. There's a bad guy that kills his brother, and
are you supposed to tell him that?
Oh, sorry.
Spoiler
I'll throw a spoiler
alert
behind that.
Real quick.
I'll throw a little tag, but sorry about that. Yeah. Well, but I just want to tell why. There is a vengeance.
Yeah, there's something that happens
that's sorry about that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it before. But it's just an origin story.
And in case you're wondering, this is how the movie ends. We'll go ahead and get into that.
That was the origin story. So we'll go ahead and get into it.
So what do we do? Oh, we're getting into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
all right. The review part. Well, I forgot where I was. What was I saying?
I don't know if you want me to start it off.
Go ahead and start it off.
All right. For me, the pacing, the editing, it was extremely frenetic. There were a lot.
Yes, I remember that. Go ahead.
Okay, there were a lot of things that I didn't understand why, and I couldn't follow everything. It was like, we'll bring you here, but it doesn't really have any relevance. We're going to show you this plot story, even though it doesn't have any relevance. In fact, one of them kind of got me a little mad. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there was, I was just like, they kept jumping, and it wasn't necessarily, there could have been plot holes. The editing was so frenetic, and it was like, but there was a lot of drop-offs. Like, okay, we're just going to end this here. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. Well, in one particular thing for me, there was I'll just say a big battle sequence, and they just had that to have that, and it kind of perturbed me.
I think I know which one you're talking about. I didn't think it was just to have it. I thought it was to show the significance of what was going on.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying with that, but at the same time, it's like, they didn't really establish that. It's like,
it just kind
look, isn't this significant? Because I think
man.
that's how they were like, I could almost see like, them pointing at, this is supposed to be significant, but they didn't establish why it was supposed to be significant. And the fact that historically they brought that in there, and like it kind of actually like it got to me. I was like, now I'm kind of mad at you screenwriters for doing that.
Okay.
And so not only that, but the screenwriters, like, oh gosh, if this movie does bank, which I don't know how well it's doing, if they do make a sequel, fire whoever wrote this, get them. Don't let them come 100 feet near the script, because the script was just horrible.
Well,
the only and there were some really good actors in here. Armie Hammer, which it's kind of flat for me. The guy who played the Lone Ranger was kind of a one note, and it wasn't a one note I really enjoyed.
Well, here's the thing, and I can understand that point. I hadn't seen him in anything else, but when I saw him, I felt like the character probably was going to take the route that they went with him. So I couldn't think of anyone that was going to be in that role to play it the way they wanted him to play it. So I felt like he did fine for what was required of him. I don't know if it was so much his fault, for his character. I think it was just that's what was going to be required anyway. As far as like the way they put everything together, I did feel like it was frantic, but I'm kind of used to that after all the Pirates thing because I felt like, but in fairness to Pirates, I felt that Pirates definitely did a better job of keeping it in control and showing you a direction. This is why this is happening. This is why we're going in that way.
Because you just look at the first Pirates, I agree. It was frenetic, and it did kind of have multiple plots, but they all came together.
Right.
There were a lot of things that they just completely dropped off and left off, and that was and like the one significant one stands out in my head, and I was just like, why did you do that? Except you wanted to seem like you were historic or kind of political, but it made me like it like I was just like, why in the world would you do that? And the fact to make these people even worse, and a lot of the character motivations were just like turning the coin in 2 seconds for me, man.
Well, yeah, but I guess the reason it didn't bother me is because I kind of expected there to not be any particular strength to the story or strength to what was going on. I kind of expected it to be kind of out there and kind of let's just push the action. And I was more surprised by the fact that they did have a story underneath that was a significant story, even though they could have probably used it to better effect. But the fact of what happened with his family, what happened with Tonto, the whole backstory of Tonto, I was actually surprised that they put that in there. I thought he was going to be a more flattering character. So I mean,
even still, like I said, Armie Hammer, who played the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network, he was really good in that. He was just like...
Oh! Yeah!
Yeah!
Okay, wow! Okay, I got you now.
So, and
I forgot about that. That is right.
He was such a one-hit note, and like I said, it really wasn't a note I enjoyed.
He was interesting in that movie. I gotta admit, his characters were interesting.
They
seemed like real people. They seemed like you could run into this
it was like stupid stuff to where and this isn't a spoiler, but the actual Lone Ranger character established did not come until like the last 20 minutes of the movie, and it's a 2.5 hour long movie.
Well, I mean,
there's no excuse for that.
No, hold on.
There was hold on.
I don't think that's fair.
There was so many There were so many things. It's like, no, I'm still Justin Good because he's a lawyer in the beginning. I'm sorry.
The reason I didn't have a problem with that was because particularly since this is the first movie, I see them wanting to establish the character like Spider-Man. You didn't have Spider-Man just dress up as Spider-Man and jump out.
And I agree with that, but you had a 2.5 hour long, and it felt like 5 hours.
Was it 2.5 hours long?
It was 2.5 hours long.
Okay.
And you had so many turns. I really recognize the early turns, but you had past that, you literally had so many chances that guy could have become the Lone Ranger.
But at the same time, I can see why with the whole dilemma that was there, him wanting to kind of fight it and say, I want to do it the right way. I mean, that was his thing. He had to get to the point where he decided, okay, I'm going to go against everything because I don't like the way things are going at all, and I have no other choice.
But for me, you look at all the times that stuff literally went down for him.
I guess they felt like they didn't want to peak it too soon.
I'm sorry, man. They had so many, an hour and a half in the movie.
I mean, honestly,
I realize you want the origin story. I'm sorry, man.
I do understand because I felt that way about. I felt that way about District 9. I felt like they peaked it too soon, or they didn't peak it late enough. I'm just saying, as far as peaking is concerned, I wasn't happy with when they peaked it. So I mean, I can understand where you're coming from in that regard.
But yeah, man, I'm sorry. It was just, and a lot of the actors, it's like, why did you bring in these people? The same complaint with Iron Man 3. Like Tom Wilkinson, he's a great actor. He was the guy who played the railroad guy, the guy who was in charge of the railroad.
He was the old guy?
The old guy in charge of the...
Okay.
Who was a great actor. He's been in so many good things. He just played a generic person.
The guy that played the main villain, yes. I liked him because he was in Armageddon, and I have never seen him play a role like this. This was excellent. I thought he did a really good job.
I've never seen Armageddon, but...
oh my God.
But...
that's not... You should see that movie, dude.
But, are you sure? Because I know it's directed by Michael Bay. Is it one of... Dude, I'm sorry.
What,
Transformers
Bruce
2
Willis?
is like one of my worst movies of all time.
But Transformers 1 was amazing.
Yes.
So
That's true.
and that was before Transformers.
But
Anyway, back to the story. I thought he was a great villain.
I'll go there. He was a good villain.
Yeah.
Like, there was two people that acted good for me in this movie. Johnny Depp, because Johnny Depp, even though it was kind of a rendition on the Jack Sparrow character, because that's pretty much what he was playing. This may be a wrap up for a little longer.
Okay.
But Johnny Depp, who is kind of doing it, but it's still, I'm not going to lie, he made me laugh. Johnny Depp is good at that type of character. He can play it in his sleep, and he was good, and the villain.
And you can tell they wrote that character for him.
Yeah, and but the villain was really good. But then you have Helena Bonham Carter, which I was like,
who's that?
The
wife?
No, the leader.
Oh,
not the red-haired lady. The woman, I can't spoil it, but the cool leg.
With the leg. Yeah. I thought I liked her performance.
Well, why was she in her?
Because she's always with Johnny Depp. Don't you realize that?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying why was she in there. Like it's like why was her character in, like especially in the ending significant scene. It's like
she's a good fan of Johnny Depp, and she's gonna show up in the movie.
All right.
That's how it works.
The wife was kind of the kid actor was kind of I'm sorry. I could ramble about this movie all day. That's my
I guess the reason I probably enjoyed it more is because my expectation was pretty much exactly what the movie ended up being, so I didn't come in disappointed.
I still had low expectations, man. I don't know. You can go ahead and give your score.
Man, your expectations weren't low enough. That's the problem.
that's like the biggest backhanded compliment I've ever heard in my life, dude.
All right, so what would you give this movie?
You know what? I'm going to drop down this low. It's my first. I'll give it a 1+. Because there's some enjoyment out of that. No, wait. Yeah, a 1+. It's not a 0. No, I'll give it a 1.5 minus. It's like the biggest, but because you can enjoy somewhat out of Johnny Depp's performance, but then I'd say go watch Pirates of the Caribbean because it's better. And the villain, which was a good villain.
Yeah,
but
it woke me up when I saw him because, and the guy, the brother, I like him because he was in 24. He was also in Iron Man 3.
No, the brother of Army
Hammer.
Yeah,
and I thought he did a really good job with his character. But I started to give it a 3.5, but I'm going to give it a 3 because I realized there are a lot of things that they could have done. There are a lot of things that, as far as meeting my expectations, I give it a 3 for that.
All right. This has been Critical Point Reviews. Lone Ranger, Leroy, would you say go see it? You gave it a 3. Say matinee
if you're a Lone Ranger fan, you owe it to yourself to go see it. If you're a Johnny Depp fan, you owe it to yourself to go see it. If you're not really a fan of any of these things, you probably could do better watching something else, I guess, because, it's not for everybody.
I say stay away from this movie unless you're adventurous, and then wait till it gets on Redbox. But, other than that. But that's it. Thank you for watching Critical Point Reviews.